Delighted to be joined once again by Ian Irving, Premier League reporter, and from Talk of the Devils, a Man United podcast. Ian, thanks so much for joining us again.
Morning, Johnny.
How are you?
I'm okay, mate. Yeah, I'm
Good.
okay. I'm ready for Someone messaged me this morning and said that Spurs against Manchester United this week is going to be known as El Calamitico. Feels like a little bit of a push and quite difficult to say, but I'm here for it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to previewing that with you.
Well, I was going to start with every time we come on and we talk to you, it's something else at Man United and it's something else at Tottenham. At the moment, it's a battle to see who can have the worst season. But where are you? Where are you on Man United, and where are Man United at the moment?
As bad as I've seen, I would say. I'm 38. I was very fortunate to have a very happy childhood watching my football team. But this season has been, wow, it's got worse and worse and worse. I mean, when a manager can sit there or a head coach can sit there and quite comfortably say that, we've talked about relegation, we've talked about this being the worst Manchester United team ever. They're breaking stats from not the 1980s anymore, but the 1890s. It's been so bad. So I just don't know what to make of it, to be honest. Ruben Amorim said from the start that it's going to be difficult, that the transition to his way of playing and his formation is going to be a long process, but United should be better for it next season. But I don't know whether he anticipated this season being as bad as it's been, and then doesn't really feel like it's getting better either, to be honest.
You said to me before, and you've stunned me with a stat before, despite it being my job. You said you'd won 6 of the last 8, which really surprised me. We've lost 5 of our last 8. But in a way, despite what you've been saying, still getting over the line in games, is that something to cling on to?
Well, getting over the line is the key part of it because, I mean, if you look at the home form, United have only won games in stoppage time in recent weeks, whether that be Leicester on Friday night with Harry Maguire's marginally onside goal, or whether that be, Rangers in the Europa League. I'm looking back even further, Southampton with Ahmad's goals in stoppage time. But yeah, I mean, the record actually, 6 of the last 8, depends on your attitude to whether penalty shootout victories are actually wins or not.
Draws.
But it was against Arsenal, so I'm sure it'll count as a victory in your book, Johnny. But yeah, 6 of the last 8 are wins. And, away from home, they've actually been okay, to be fair. It's been at home where it feels like there's been the pressure. And actually playing against better teams, they've been better. Now, I don't know whether we're still classifying... I don't know if you're classifying Tottenham and Man United as better teams anymore. But certainly, the highlight of Amorim's time has been away at City, away at Liverpool, away at Arsenal. So if Spurs want to come into their match of the weekend and have a go at United, I think that'd suit them, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. There's so much in to dissect with United as to where it has gone wrong. You had the euphoria of a new board coming in and a big United fan, and everything was going to be great. And it hasn't quite gone that way. And is it the board? Was it Ten Hag? And even so recently as the transfer window not signing anyone, and then the narrative from the club being, well, we didn't really want to in the end, but you were certainly linked with players like Matisse Tell. So where is the blame overall, and why didn't you sign when it seems like you really needed to?
They haven't got any money. That's the simplest way of putting it, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure they could have done the deal for Tell if they wanted to pay what was quoted supposedly as a sort of 5 million loan fee with no option for United to buy. Obviously, Tottenham carried on the negotiations and ended up getting that over the line, and Tell obviously is part of your squad now. But United's financial situation is so dire. Is probably the word, to be honest.
Can you explain this for fans? Because I think so many fans associate United with one of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the biggest revenues, so much income. So explain to fans that don't understand, why do you not have the money?
Just look at the finances. They lose 80 to 90 million pounds on average a year. They've got by, on the PSR calculations, on a rolling 3-year basis across the last 3 seasons by the skin of the teeth. And that margin's 105 million pounds they can lose over that period. The club have spent and spent and spent. Signings like Anthony and Casemiro were done on effectively credit cards. They owe hundreds of thousands of pounds to other clubs in unpaid transfer fees. They're still spending hundreds of thousands of pounds every year in interest payments because of the takeover, which is nearly 20 years ago, by the Glazers. Jim Radcliffe's money, predominantly, the lion's share of it has gone into the Glazers' pocket. It's not gone into the club. there's been some investment that will be sort of ring fence supposedly for infrastructure and so on. But whatever metric you want to use financially, United's financial situation is not good, and something needs to change. Hence why, that January was pretty quiet in terms of incomings. Hence why a quarter of the staff have been made redundant. Yeah, it's a very, very serious situation for them.
Wow.
I'm going to keep this really brief as a question, but fast forward 15 months, who's finishing higher in the league, Spurs or United, as the two basket cases of the top 6?
Well, I mean, I'm just thrilled by the prospect of the battle for 13th spot, to be honest. I mean, we seem to be taking it in turns in that sense. I mean, Johnny said he was startled by the 6 wins and 8 start. Well, I was startled last night by looking at the table and realising United are 5 points off the top half.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like 5 points off rescuing the season and getting into Europe, isn't it? Not getting into the top half. I mean, the benefit for United is they're still in the FA Cup. I'm sorry to bring that up this morning. They're obviously still in the Europa League, like Spurs, and in some ways, the two English sides, despite their league form, will be amongst the favourites to win that competition. The fact that there's no Champions League clubs dropping out of that competition into the Europa League is a huge benefit this time around. United avoiding the playoff, brings a benefit with there being a bit more training time for Amorim. I mean, he's only actually been in the building for just over 2 months, and it feels in some ways like he's been there forever. But yeah, I mean, I think we're probably at the point where the league season's a bit of a write-off, to be honest, and who's the better for it next year? I don't know. United haven't really got the excuse of injuries, like obviously Ange Postecoglou was talking about yesterday after losing to Villa. But that's what United had last season, injury after injury after injury. And in the end, obviously, Ten Hag couldn't do any better, even when the injured players came back. They won the FA Cup, which was brilliant. But yeah, it just feels like a huge job for Amorim. Week by week, it feels like a bigger job. You're just saying there about, can you explain the finances? The more you look into it, the more it feels like bringing in a manager partway through a season who wants to play a completely different way with no money to be able to change a squad that was bought for a different system. Just feels like it's going to take time to work through. There's been a lot of pain already, and I think there'll be more.
So on that, I just wanted to ask you, because you're painting a pretty bleak picture, and as a Spurs fan,
you've seen the league table, right?
Yeah, but okay, the league table. But I consider as a Spurs fan and say the one thing I know we do have are finances. We can go and spend and buy. We can increase the wages. We've got that flexibility. So as a United fan, and Ollie kind of asked it, who's going to be ahead, but what do you see as being positive? Because if you don't make Champions League by winning the Europa League, you ain't getting into Europe any other way. Your finances aren't improving.
You could win the FA Cup.
Oh yeah, you could win the FA Cup. Okay, fine. But it doesn't look like there's going to be a big leap forwards in your finances. How does it change?
Well, it does change by January being quieter. I mean, it certainly helps Manchester United in the summer if they've not spent money in January. And also the way that the finances calculations work with the PSI, it's a rolling 3-year contract. So the biggest spends that they've had are now further away. So the more that time passes, the more leeway there is to be able to do some business. And obviously they'll hope that they can offload players. I mean, Jadon Sancho's deal for Chelsea is already sorted. I think even the measures have probably already been met by them as well for that to be triggered. So he's quite happy posting controversial things on Manchester United players' Instagram accounts. So I think he thinks he's at Stamford Bridge next season as well. Obviously, Marcus Rashford, depending on what happens between now and the end of the season at Aston Villa, they'll hope to recoup some money there. The £40 million deal that's been agreed, again, an option, not an obligation in the cases for Rashford compared to Sancho. But that's potentially there, probably 60-70 million quid through the door, something like that, if those two deals are completed. Anthony's at Real Betis. He's already scored his first goal. The fans at Betis have voted him as player of the match in his first 2 games. So hopefully that positive experience continues for him and they can recoup some money there. They sold better last season as well. The sort of peripheral players that United managed to move on last season was a big positive. It's not something that United have done well in modern times is sell well. But they recouped a lot of money there, so that will help too. So I'm painting a bleak picture of the finances, but as time passes, as they get to the summer, there is work that they can do. But you just wonder how much damage is going to be done in the meantime, to be honest, because the Leicester game on Friday night, yes, Manchester United went through in the end, but the first half's as bad as I've seen United play ever. I think they didn't have a shot on target against the side who were, struggling at the wrong end of the table. I know it's the cup, but Leicester even made changes. It wasn't even their strongest side, so it's pretty worrying, really.
Leicester beat us.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
Again, you improved on us there. Just before we let you go, a stat here, something that if you said to me growing up as a kid, as a Spurs fan, I would never have seen a Spurs against United. Tottenham are unbeaten in their last 4 Premier League games against United, looking to complete the double over them for the first time since 1989-90, which was also the last time we beat you 3 times in the same season. Remarkably, Ange's record of losing to your Leicesters, your Palaces, but he's done well against United and City. How do you see Sunday going?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, week to week, watch United and watch Tottenham. Who knows what's coming? It could be 3-3, it could be 3-0 one way or the other.
Well, you just look at that League Cup quarter-final and we were 3 up and cruising, and before you know it, it's nearly 3-3.
Yeah, and United's goalkeeping situation is better. I mean, Onana is definitely better than Altay Bandit, who had an absolute nightmare that night and then was brilliant.
Our keeper was good that night as well, though.
Well, of course, they definitely sort of contributed to the spectacle that was that League Cup tie. There's no question about that. And even the new lad, is he an improvement in your minds?
Yeah,
he's done okay. He's young, he's 21. When Vicario comes back, he'll sit on the bench. There's definitely a good keeper in there,
Yeah, okay. All right. So you're not giving me too much hope there. But it could be anything. Like I said to you before, United's away form over recent weeks is pretty good. 2-0 at Steaua Bucharest, or FCSB as they're now known in the Europa League. 1-0 at Fulham. The draw at Arsenal, win on penalties. The draw at Anfield. So you've got to go back to Boxing Day, the last time United were poor away from home and were well beaten at Wolves down to 10 men when Bruno Fernandes was sent off. So there is more hope, I would say, United playing away from home at the moment than at home, because home has been so hard going and so bad and so lackluster. But like I say, you could tell me that the result could be 3-3, 3-0 either way, and I genuinely wouldn't be surprised. It's hard to know what to expect now at the minute.
So I won't ask you for a prediction because we don't know, do we? We ain't got a bloody clue anymore.
The thing is with United, they, a bit like Spurs, I suppose, from what you've just said about Postecoglou, you never would have expected them to be able to go to Anfield and the Emirates in those back-to-back games and not be beaten. They were so good, especially at Anfield, and then with 10 men at the Emirates as well, to be able to take them to penalties and then show the character to come through. You just never would have expected it. And then everyone after those games, including the manager Ruben Amorim, including the captain Bruno Fernandes, were like, "It's fine, doing it here." And you're like, yeah, but what we need to do, we need to show it against Southampton. And then they were just comprehensively outplayed against Southampton, despite telling everyone for 10 days, 2 weeks that it's not about the results at the Emirates and Anfield. It's about what they can do against Southampton in the Premier League. And you're just like, well, how can you say all that and then play like this? In the end, they won. They won 3-1. Ahmad got his hat trick, and I think 2 of the goals were in stoppage time that night, like I said before. So, yeah, I would love to come on and say with any confidence what the score would be, but I have absolutely no idea.
Ian, we shall see on Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, as I always say, I wish you luck for Sunday. I don't really mean it. Maybe we will make it 3 wins against United for the first time in a season since 1989-90. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will speak to you maybe before Bilbao. Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's see, eh? Yeah. Could beat us 4 times in a season.
Cheers, Ian.
When it matters.
See you later. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.